Hello, and thank you for joining me again today. Today I'm bringing you a story out of Maryland. On March 17th, 2020, 33-year-old Jonathan Riddle of Taneytown, Maryland, had gone to a home located on East Main Street in Westminster. He was there to meet his friend, Heather Grogg. While in the home, there was an altercation between him and 22-year-old Monroe Merrell. Merrell was a friend of the couple who lived there, David Sanford and Emily Day. Heather Grogg was their live-in babysitter and had only lived in the home for about 3 months. During the altercation between Merrell and Riddle, Merrell told his friend, David Sanford, to stab Riddle as he held him back. Their other friend, 22-year-old John Wesley Black, who was also present, joined in and stabbed Riddle twice in the abdomen. Riddle, who now was in obvious pain and probably scared to death, attempted to leave the apartment and was subdued by the 3 men. His hands and feet were bound with cuttings from a nearby sheet. According to information gathered by police, many subjects were present at the apartment when the assault occurred. All 3 men then transported Jonathan Riddle to West Virginia. In the early morning hours of March 18th, deputies located Riddle's body in the area of Smith Road and Wardcliffe Road in Ripon. Riddle had several puncture marks on his body and appeared to have trauma to his face. Jonathan Riddle's body was partially burned to the ground and still partially on fire. Just 2 days later, additional investigations revealed a 2015 Chevrolet Malibu was involved in his homicide. The vehicle was located in the home of David Sanford and April Day. Police briefly spoke to Merrell when the vehicle was located. Merrell appeared to be extremely nervous and had a small cut on his hand. Police seized the vehicle and a search warrant was obtained. On April 6, 2020, 18-year-old Danielle Tyler of Taneytown, Maryland, texted her grandmother, Sherry Tyler. In her text, Danielle said she would be turning off her cell phone for a bit. She wasn't sure for how long, but that she was tired of the drama. Sherry assumed that Danielle was referring to her ex-boyfriend, who Danielle had recently broken up with in March, after a 2-year relationship. Sherry figured they had been texting back and forth, and that was why Danielle was turning her cell phone off. Since the couple's breakup, Danielle had made new friends and went from being someone who would let her grandmother know where she was and what time she was arriving home before curfew, to someone who stayed out for days at a time, staying at friends' homes, friends that Sherry knew nothing about and whom she did not particularly care for, as they were negatively influencing her granddaughter. Not long after the text exchange, Maryland State Police homicide detectives called on Sherry. They were looking for Danielle and encouraged Sherry to file a missing persons report. So she did. This is when she found out another young woman was missing, 33-year-old Heather Grogg of Westminster. Sherry feared the worst. She feared this was more than a case of missing people. Ever since the initial persons reports were taken by the Maryland State Police, Danielle and Heather Grogg were considered to be critically missing and in danger. Due to the impact the release of investigative information would cause at the time on the ongoing investigation, police were unable to be more specific as to why they believed that. Through friends and friends of Danielle's, her grandmother learned that she had been hanging out at the same home in which Jonathan Riddle had been murdered back in March. She had been staying there with 22-year-old Monroe Merrell, who was the new boyfriend. He had been newly released from prison back in January 17th of 2020 after serving time on a kidnapping charge in 2016. Sherry believes he reeled Danielle in by feeding her everything she could possibly want to hear, straight out of a breakup, ultimately charming her. Merrell had been sentenced in 2017 to 20 years with all but 5 years suspended. He had been abiding by the terms of his probation according to the spokesperson of the Department of Public Health and Correctional Services. His sentence was backdated to August 22, 2016, and he was released on mandatory supervision. He reported to his parole and probation officer, as it was court-ordered, and was compliant in his supervision. He last spoke to his agent on March 11th. Both Heather Grogg and Danielle Tyler had last been heard from on April 6th. On that day, David Sanford, his girlfriend, Emily Day, and their friend, 22-year-old Jeffrey Craig Smith, drove Heather and Danielle to the home of 37-year-old April Lynn Brainer on Burnside Drive in Falling Waters. There, Danielle's boyfriend, Monroe Merrell, had already been staying for approximately a week. Both women were told that they would be safe at this location due to law enforcement investigating the Riddle homicide in Carroll County. Authorities had at some point already interviewed Heather Grogg, and this made all the people involved very nervous. Merrell arranged to have Danielle and Heather brought to West Virginia for the purpose of having them killed. April Brainer was aware of this plan and provided the group with the items they would use to commit the murders. When they arrived at Brainer's property, Sanford used a plastic bag given to him by Brainer to asphyxiate Danielle. When Brainerd realized that she was still alive, she told Tyler it wasn't done yet. Sanford suffocated her again until he was sure she was dead. As this was happening in the party trailer, as it was known, across the way from Brainer's residence, Merrell lured Heather away, and Smith shot her twice. April Lynn Brainer of West Virginia was charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. David Sanford, John Black III, and Monroe Merrell were charged with kidnapping and attempted murder of John Riddle. It is unclear if they will be prosecuted for the murder of Heather Grogg and Danielle Tyler. Emily Day, Sanford's girlfriend, was arrested in connection with Riddle's death and charged with being an accessory before and after the fact. She had provided latex gloves to the people who kidnapped and killed Jonathan Riddle. Jeffrey Craig Smith of Larkhill County is charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy, according to Berkeley County Magistrate Court records. Jonathan Riddle was a beloved husband and stepfather, a skilled and talented carpenter who had worked in a number of construction companies and dreamed of owning his own business. Jonathan and his wife Diana were about to celebrate their 2-year wedding anniversary on March 31st. On April 4th, his stepson Gabe was going to have his bar mitzvah, and he would have celebrated with him, along with his stepdaughter Madeline. In August, both he and his wife had a cruise all planned out for their family. These events have not and will not occur the way the family had planned. Jonathan was incredibly close to his family, especially his mother, and only lived within a few miles radius from them. Jonathan and Diana had bought a camper and would take all the nieces and nephews out on the weekends. That was the type of person that Jonathan was. Sadly, due to the pandemic, Diana was not able to go to his family for comfort and support, instead leaving some of his ashes on the porch of his mother's home. Diana said she knew something was wrong when she saw John's work clothes were still home on March 18th. She wondered why he hadn't gone to work. By the afternoon, she was calling police departments and hospitals, searching for her husband. She filed a missing persons report with Taneytown Police around 4:30 p.m. About an hour later, police were at her door. She was surprised to see law enforcement. Diana feels incredibly lucky her husband was found so quickly, and she didn't have to wonder what happened to him. She hopes people remember him as the person he was and not for how he died. I want him to be remembered as the fun, loving person who would, drop everything at a minute's notice to help anyone, to be there for anyone. He was loved. He was loved by everybody. Danielle Tyler. Danielle would have been honored in front of everyone for her achievements this year. Danny, as she was known to friends and family, as well as teachers, had earned awards for her commitment to earning good grades and being a dedicated student. She was awarded the Governor's Merit Award for academic achievement, both which were well-deserved. Not only did she graduate from Gateway High School, but from the Career and Tech Center and the Videography program. Danny had a tough exterior, but she was personable and she was lovely. There was a graduation speech given to Danny's family at her school. Afterwards, school staff and teachers lined up outside to pay tribute to Danny and let her family know just how much she meant to everyone. Not much is known about Heather Grogg, except that she was the mother of 4 teenagers, 2 of which were twins. She loved her children. On her Facebook page, from what is visible to the public, she was a very loving and caring mother. She also had a partner, Michael Hoyle, whom I contacted to try to get some idea of what kind of person Heather was, to give tribute to her for this piece. However, he never got back to me. Thank you for having joined me for this story. Please click on the subscribe button and don't forget to turn on your notifications so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your support.